Hello everyone, this is Jakekub here, back with another one of these where I go over how I made a Minecraft UHC record round intro. We're looking at the Survivor UHC Season 2 intro, so this isn't like your stereotypical recorded round, but it still needed an intro. I made the Season 1 intro about a year ago. It was in November last year that it got released, so we're releasing around the same time actually. And here we are. We have the intro. Usually I go through and play the intros. Usually I just go through and play the intros. But, you see, it usually just doesn't end up working out, because once you get to, like, halfway through, like, you can try, but it just starts lagging. So I'm not going to go through it. Instead, I'm just going to go through it step by step, what's going on. So, what you'll notice first of all is we have the winner of Season 1 clip. So literally all that this clip is right here is I went to Nintendo's YouTube channel, went to the Survivor UHC Season 1, and I picked out the clip where it was the winner. You'll see that in one of these other ones that the scale is at 120. If I set it back to 100, you'll see that in the bottom corner is Nintendo's YouTube channel logo, because I literally just recorded it straight off of his channel. So I tried my best to cover that up. I had to chop the audio to make it fit, but here you can hear it.
Winner of Survivor Ultra Hard, Simply Sam.
So yeah, I had to cut it just to make it fit in this little 4-second thing. And then what I do, on the beat, it gets progressively faster. I start showing clips from the first season, kind of just as a prelude, I guess you could say. That's a part of the original intro, just more parts of the clips. And I made sure to include a variety of clips. This was right at the start, this is from the intro, this is from one of the bases, this is from the little like player interviews, this is from one of the tribal challenges, this is just walking around the base again. Again, same thing. What you'll also notice is that there's this like mirrored, I don't know, like extends it outwards. Like if you look at the stairs, you'll see that there's the actual stairs. I don't know what to call the effect. It's like a ghost effect. I don't know. I don't entirely know how I did it. It appears. No, it's none of those. It's the transform effect right here. So that's what creates the little. That's what creates this effect. That was unintentional, to be honest. The only goal was to use that transform to cover up Nintendo's channel logo, but it ended up serving a better use, actually. And it gets more visible as you go through. You can see it here. Nintendo's channel is in the corner there, but you wouldn't notice that unless I pointed it out. So I didn't figure it was that big of an issue. And that's where this other layer comes in. We have a black bar that slowly creeps in. That's me doing my best to cover it up. I actually added that in pretty late into the editing process, but that's mostly because I felt like this opening section needed something more. And I think it just did the job of what I was looking to do. Yeah, that's basically that. And now we get to where the actual logo comes in. So if we go back a bit, you can see that this is what Season 1 looked like right here. And if you remember back to the Season 1 intro, you'll know that basically this background fades out and the logo is just on a black screen. So the same thing happens here. Basically it's on a black screen. Like I was gonna have something in the background here, but then I realized, oh, that's actually like pretty nice for continuity's sake, I guess you could say. So yeah, we've got all of the clips, and then all that happens, it literally just cuts in, because that's like how hard the beat is. And I feel like a cut in, I don't often do cuts. I usually fade something in, like just with a few seconds, but a hard it comes in really fit well here, I think. That's one tip that I have for like up and coming intro makers, I guess. Like, don't just put in an effect just to put in an effect. if you're using an effect, you want it to have purpose, really. So that's why there's this. Another thing that I added was this layer right here. So this is, you can see the main logo, but then you've got 10% opacity, the logo at 400 scale. And it fades out pretty quickly. It's really just to like extenuate the whole, like, bam, the logo just came in. And then all the logo's doing here, it's out of scale, and it's zooming out a little bit and also rotating slightly. And then we get to these things. These are just little directional blurs and Gaussian blurs. I varied them up based on the beat, kinda. Actually, yeah, I got directional. We got a Gaussian blur, then just all directional blurs, basically. Yeah, that's that. It just goes with the beat. It makes it so it's not super bland. Just, oh, here's the logo fading in. It adds something more to it. And now we get to the actual part where we introduce the players. But first, before we do that, I want to talk about how this fades out. So if we go to here, you'll notice that it scales up very rapidly, and how when it went from center and it started tilting clockwise. So when I zoom out, I make it tilt counterclockwise and outwards. So that's that. And now we get into the actual intro part. So there's a lot going on. There's a lot of layers. So let's start. We have this bottom layer. This is the background footage. This is to show what the map looks like for Survivor. So every 3 players it changes, because if you've watched the intro, you'll know that there are 3 tribes with 6 players each. So 3. The math checks out. So that's the background. It has a little bit of a fade. Other than that, doesn't really have any effects. Adjustment layer. What this adjustment layer does, if I get rid of this, what it does is it splits the screen in 2. So you have the player and the name of the player on one side, and then on the other side, it is darkened and blurred. So it brings your focus over to the player. That's what brightness does. Like, your eyes naturally go to the brightest thing. So that's kind of just to help you focus on the players. I don't know. It was a nice effect. It added something more to the intro. And then we have bacon. This is the text. It's quite simple. All it does, just to start here, is if you watch it closely, you'll see that the crop, it just goes from bottom up and slowly reveals it. There's a little bit of an edge feather, so it doesn't look too harsh. And the tribes are up here. You'll notice that same here. There's just it's the same edge feather as well, and it just does that. It does the little just comes in from the top. It comes in from the top, unlike this one, which comes in from the bottom. So that's that. And now the next thing that happens. So this layer right here, I skipped this layer somewhat intentionally, because this is the most complicated layer to explain. So you'll see that the renders are moving, and that is that was with help from Phenom. So Tiago did the renders, and I was like, I want these renders to move. I don't want them to animate. I want the camera to move around the renders. So Tiago had trouble figuring that out, so I asked Phenom if he had any idea how to do it, and we worked through all of these. It took a while, but I think the end result was definitely worth it. It adds more personality to these characters, and especially for something like Survivor. Adding personality to it, because like you want to know, like, this is a very different kind of UHC. So you want it, like, it's more of a show than just your average round. So I wanted to, like, emphasize, like, everyone's personalities, basically. So that's why I wanted to do the animated renders. So what you'll see is, because if Phenom wanted to send me the transparent animations for all of them, that would be like a ridiculous amount. Like, it was at least 3 gigabytes per player animation, I think, and that was just unreasonable. So I had him compact them into YouTube videos and just put a background on them so I could color key it out. And the color key, basically, it's how you get a green screen effect. But since Bacon has the green on his skin, I had Phenom use different colors depending on what color of skin they are. If I end up doing it, I may include a section on how we did the camera renders. I'll have to talk to Phenom about that because I actually haven't done that yet.
Hey everyone, this is Phenom here, and I'm going to show you guys how I made the animations for the Survivor intro. The renders were actually made by Pelargo, so I don't know anything about like the rendering he specifically did or anything like that, but this is what it basically looks like. How it works is you set up a camera, so, ooh, I shouldn't have deleted that. Basically you set up a camera right where the render is, so you go to the render, you click this little camera button, you just click that and it creates a camera. I already have camera set right here, and I'm already selected on it, so yeah, I don't need to do anything. These are basically keyframes. These are how the animations actually work in this case. So we have the zero key, so we have the 0 keyframe and all the way to 75 because the actual animation is 75 frames overall. So as you guys can tell, we're not actually moving the render, we're moving the camera here. So we're going to create some more camera keyframes. I'll delete all these just so you guys can see exactly how I start from scratch. Not what I want to do. I want to delete. Let me select the camera again. I'll delete the 75. Alright. I want to keep the beginning keyframe or else it will act like the actual camera was deleted. So when you first start here, just click, you guys should naturally see this timeline. Just click this little button right here, it's called record position, and it will give you the 0th frame, a 0 frame. Basically that's where you want your camera angle to initially be. Then let's say I want to move the camera over to here, right? That's a pretty bad pose. Let's do something like over here again, like I did last time or something similar to that. So we have this the original pose, let me just go back to the 0 frame, here we go. And now I am going to go over to 75 in this case. Then I'm going to rotate the camera this way, right? Then I'm going to select the camera once again, and I'm going to make a keyframe here. Now, as you will see, the animation will, the camera will transition from this angle, camera angle, to this camera angle. And that's it, simple as that. Then in your rendering settings, you go to output, and instead of current frames, you do manual, and then you do 75 frames, because this animation is 75 frames. And just to note, this will not actually render out 75 animations, instead it will render out around 90. I'm not sure exactly why, but if you were to do animations, that's how that works. And basically how you would actually submit this sort of thing is, these aren't my presets, but yeah, I'll just do that, these are my presets. Okay, so I'm gonna make this like 1920 by 1080 in this case, right? Save this as, let me go to everything, miss, this is where I included Jake's renders, so I basically make a folder for each one, so I'll do pair.test, Perry's dots are, it's already there, pair.test, and then you call this whatever, and then you click alpha channel, of course you want to keep it transparent, you do this of course, make it so it's at 75 frames. Notice how it says 91 to 90, it's about 90 renders. Then you do, you know, of course, your natural settings. I already know mine pretty well, so I'll just implement these quickly. Yeah, and then basically, once you're done with all of this, I don't know why the render just screwed up there, it's not how it's actually going to look. Once you're done with all of that, it should be downloaded into your folder, so let's start rendering this. Oh, I don't have the rig open, let me open this quickly. What it'll do is it'll render out each animation, so it'll render out all of these frames, and when it's finished, you'll be able to look at it fully as an animation. And again, this will be the finished product. It will look just like this. It'll be a sequence of a bunch of renders, and then in After Effects, you of course just like import it as a sequence. And you guys can probably look at tutorials about that if you really want to figure out animations work. So I'm gonna transition between these just to show you guys exactly what I mean. It's a bit difficult because like they're blurry, but hope you guys can kind of see what I mean. As you can see, the render's rotating just a little bit to the right, and yeah, it's as simple as that. So I hope this tutorial has been helpful to you guys. Back to Jake, I guess.
So the next thing that happens, that's this layer with the animated player render. The only thing that's left is this paper scroll. And the paper scroll, what happens is, I just found this on YouTube, to be honest. As you can see, it's got a color key. It wasn't super high quality. In fact, it's scaled up a bit. I don't know if the drop shadow was entirely necessary, to be honest. I probably didn't need it, now that I'm looking back on it. I don't think it really harmed the intro terribly much, though. It was just an effect, because I don't know. I guess I feel that this kind of just doesn't look right. It's just in here, and it just didn't look right just like that. So I added the drop shadow to it, just to make it a little bit more interesting. And the other thing that happens is, this is what probably took the longest, is creating all of these text files. So what happens is you have the text come in. So on this, I messed this up a bit, but if you go frame by frame, as the paper scrolls down, the text will start to crop in from left to right, slowly but surely. As you can see, I messed it up a little bit there, but like, you can't notice this. Like, if you're watching this just through, like, I'm gonna do this real quick, you probably didn't even notice it, that like that little error happened. So I mean, I tried to fix it for the most part, but it's so unnoticeable. So this scroll here was to just get more personality into the survivor characters, the people that played the round. So we have their alias, so we have their in-game name, what they go by, like their Minecraft username, but a lot of people don't call people by that username, so I wanted to put the alias in here. So like, I haven't watched the season or anything. Nintendo, who organized this, has kept most of the details about the season pretty secretive, which is fine by me. But I figure that, like, most people don't call Bacon, they call him Sam. Or some people call him Bacon, some people, his closer friends, call him Sam. Just as an example, I know for Chalk, especially, everyone calls him Vincent, basically. Very few people call him Chalk. So having that up there, it makes it clear for people that might not be as experienced in the community that are trying to watch. The age, that's kind of just adding more realism to it. And then the game plan is to give you an idea of who you might want to look out for while you're watching the perspective. So Bacon's his friendly underdog plotting against the threats. So if you want to, like, pay attention to anyone, let's say you want to pay attention to what is Bacon going to do in this game, you can, like, make the assumption that he's probably going to try and lay somewhat low, but he's going to be there, like, figuring out, okay, who has the control and how can I get rid of the person in control. That's kind of just to add more personality to it. Some of them are more joking than others. I know Katie's is especially silly, but that's that. Let me go back to this. So we have the paper scroll down. So what I had to do for this here, if we go to speed and duration, you'll see it is a speed of 1. Normally it's at 100, and that's to get this paper to stop, because if I don't have it stop, then it flaps around like there's wind under there, and that's just not realistic. So I had to set it to speed 1 to stop it. The last thing that happens is if we go to the Bacon text, you'll see this brightness and contrast mask. And if you remember the Survivor Season 1 intro, there were... I guess Premiere is just lagging on me now. That's fine. So you'll see the little brightness go across the letters. That was something that I did in the original Season 1 intro. Again, for the continuity thing, I wanted to bring it back. And it fit nicely with the beat as well. So all this is, if we click on the mask and we go frame by frame, you'll see that it starts here. Let me zoom in. It starts right outside of the text, and then as you go over, frame by frame, it goes over the text. And there is a mask feather to make it so it's not super, like, it adds like a fade to it, so it's not just super linear. Let me go back to fit. And it just goes across the letter, and then what happens in here is I have it go all the way around. There probably was an easier way of doing this, but I needed to get it for this frame right here where it starts to go down. I needed to make it cover the entire text, and that's what I did. And then it just goes down like that, and it stays there for the rest of it, out of sight. The mask is only affecting this layer of text, and because the edge of the text is not touching any of it, nothing happens, even though the effect is still there. So if any of you guys wanted to know how to do this little brightness thing, that's how you do it. Other than that, I think that's mostly it. This paper scroll, in order to, because you know how I said it, like it would move. So all that I did with this, if we go to speed and duration, you'll see that I have reverse speed, and speed is 1100. So it goes out very quickly. Goes out within like 5 frames, I think. Then we move over to the next player. So when all of these things fade out, what happens is you'll notice that the brightness contrast effect that darkens one side and the Gaussian blur switches sides. So that's what this layer is doing. It's fading between both of those. Chalks, you can see here, has a green background, unlike Bacon's, which had the blue. That's Venom's work right there. The other thing you'll notice is that if you remember that Bacon's text from the start here, it went from bottom up. Chalk's is going to come from top down. That's just to make things a little bit more varied. For the most part, that's really the only difference between the two. Chalk's is about again. That's like another one of the more silly ones. But to be honest, that formula repeats throughout the entire intro. That's literally all there is, except for when the thing change. If we go frame by frame, you'll see that it comes from top bottom. For that, where this one, I forget exactly again. Yeah, this one, all the tribes come in from top to bottom. I'm not going to go over any of these other things, really, because it's just repeating the same exact effect with the text. Oh, that's probably an error, isn't it? Yeah, that is. Forgot to put a fade on that. Oh well, unfortunate. You win some, you lose some. I watched over this intro so many times that I didn't even notice it. But anyway, now we move into the last section. So everything fades out at this point. And now we get to the credits. So we have the rolling paper credits again. So I have it roll down, and as it rolls down, I try to have the Survivor logo roll down with the scroll, and I think I did a pretty good job of lining that up. Same with the text. The text, I had it go along with it as well. So these are 2 layers of text. And then what we have happen here is that same brightness contrast effect. If I click on it right here, you'll see that I'm on the intro layer, which is the first layer of text, and it just goes over that. It goes from side to side, and then because there's the 2 beats, like always, it goes down on the bottom text. First it goes left to right on intro, or whatever the thing is being credited, and then the second one, it's the person that is being given the credit, basically. It does the little brightness thing, and that's kind of how it repeats for most of it. At this part, we have the we do like the inverse of it coming in. Like, it would usually come in left to right. For this, we erase right to left. So you can see that at first the top doesn't really start to fade out, but then it does. And then we do the same thing. It goes in left to right, organization, Nintendo/Pi. I don't think I really need to explain too much more of this. It's just the same crop effect. But that's basically it with this intro. Yeah, there really isn't too much more to say about it. The last thing I can talk about is this brightness contrast. It starts to do like an and it's just like, you can kind of hear it there. But it makes me think like the brightness is kind of giving like a touch to that little effect. Other than that, I think that's about it for this intro. It probably looks like it's a lot more than it actually is. I really enjoyed making this. It took me probably about 4 months, because working on this every like 3 weekends when I'd come home for college and waiting for the renders and waiting for Phenom to do the animations, it definitely took a while. But overall, I'm very happy with the end result, even if I made like this little mistake at the end there. Or I probably made some other mistakes in between, but like when you're watching it through, you aren't going to notice any of it. You'll only notice stuff like if you're going frame by frame, and you can't really see those minor errors. Other than that, that's about it for this recorded round intro, the making of. Hope you guys enjoyed. We'll see if I have any more of these to come. Maybe not. Who knows? You guys are going to have to wait and see. But that's it from me. I'll see you all next time.